Hey, folks, God bless you. Happy New Year. Hey, I just wanted to reach out to every one of you. I'm reading this story in the Bible, and it's in three Gospels: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And I know you're familiar with the story, but it starts off, it's kind of a cool story. It starts off, Jesus is finished teaching the people, and it's towards the evening, and he gets on the boat and he tells the disciples, "Follow me," and they follow him. Take note of that. So they follow him, they get in the boat, they head out across the lake, across the sea, and you know the story. The big storm comes up. The waves are rocking and rolling the boat. In fact, the boat is taking on water, and the disciples go to see where Jesus is, and he's asleep in the boat. In fact, one of the gospels says he's sleeping on a pillow, so he's in total comfort during this entire upheaval and the storm going on. And so they come to Jesus, Master, Master, wake up. We're perishing. In fact, one of the Gospels says, Master, why do you not care that we're perishing? And of course, Jesus gets up, he commands the storm to stop, and immediately it dies down, the waves stop rolling. And then he looks at the disciples and he says, why do you have no faith? And it says at that point, it's really at that point where it says that they were afraid because they didn't know that he had such power, which is interesting. And they were afraid of the storm, but they were afraid of that he had that power to command the storm to do that. Now, when I was younger growing up, that story used to bother me because it seemed like Jesus was kind of getting on them for not having faith. And aren't we supposed to go to Jesus when we're going through the storms of life and all that? Well, they were surprised that he had that power. And I don't think it was that. In fact, with them saying, why do you not care? Or don't you care? Don't you care that we're perishing? And let me put it this way. Think about it through that story. When they got to the other side, and maybe even the next day, they're telling people around them, they're telling some other friends about this story. Man, you wouldn't believe that storm that we had yesterday. That was a horrible, that was probably one of the worst storms that we went through. And the fact we almost died, we almost perished. The boat was taking on water and then it finally calmed down. Now, would that be the end of the story? Those that were with him would say, well, come on, tell us the rest of the story. And of course, the rest of the story was, but Jesus was there with us and he calmed the storm and everything was okay and Jesus was there. And so there's an obvious link and analogy to the storm of life being the year 2020. And I don't say this lightly. I've been through a lot last year. My family has. We've had friends and family members that died from coronavirus. It's been a horrible economic event, pandemic, having to be isolated from everyone, and it's affected all of us. And I'm not trying to make a message that if you're with Jesus, then everything is going to be fine, and then you're going to be spared. That's not the point of it. But I think there's something that they were missing in what Jesus was getting at, was that he was there with them, his presence. And if you read the Bible all the way through, the presence of the Lord is everything. So in the Old Testament, we see limited presence. There were times that the Lord was present with his people, like in the Ark of the Covenant, in the temple, in the most holy place. There'd be times when he would appear to people like to Moses in the burning bush. That was limited presence. And then during the Gospels, it was a geographically moving presence. As Jesus moved among the people, that was the presence of the Lord. Today we have an unseen presence, the presence of the Lord, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, who lives in us, to the believer. And in the future in heaven, we're going to have a perfect presence of the Lord. In fact, the Lord will make his home with us. It says that many, many times in Revelation 21 and many other places during the Bible, that's That's the Lord's agenda, is that he's going to make his home with man. So it's the presence of the Lord. And so I know that horrible, bad, negative things have happened last year, and last year was a rotten year. But I want us to be careful that we don't just say, yeah, 2020 sucked and it was a horrible year, because that's not the end of it. But Jesus was present with me. But he blessed me in this way and that way. And it's not always about his blessings that we can see right away, but that he was with us. Okay? And again, having Jesus with us doesn't mean that he automatically cures everything and makes everything better and pays all our bills right away. But having him there, we need to have the faith that he will see us through, even though we're going through a hard time, even though we've lost someone, even though we might die ourselves, even though some bad thing might happen, even though 2020 was a bad year for most of us, is probably the worst year we've ever experienced. But Jesus was with us. And I just want us, as we're moving on to year 2021 and beyond, for us to be aware that God is with us. Okay? And even though bad things happen on earth, and it's all going to happen for a good purpose, right? If we're obeying him and walking in righteousness. Man, I just want all of us to realize that he's with us. He's in that boat. And sometimes we cry out to him and say, don't you care, God, that these things are happening? But if we could just wrap that around our minds, that he is with us, and pray as though he's with us in that boat, no matter what 2021 has in store for us. If you're walking in righteousness, if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, he is with you. And I just want to end with that as we move into this next year. All right, God bless you. You have a good one.